I, Li Yun, was just an ordinary office worker. Average looks, average skills, average everything. The only unaverage thing about me, my hopeless, ridiculously intense crush on Kong Minjun. Minjun, my brilliantly handsome, breathtakingly cold, and unreasonably gorgeous coworker, who, unfortunately, barely acknowledged my existence. Too bad, not surprising. I was just an average guy with no special qualities. I thought I'd spend my whole life secretly crushing on him while he continued his zero-awareness streak. Then I died. Yeah, I died. In a tragic accident. No, I definitely won't say I tripped on a banana peel. That's too ridiculous. The moment I died, I thought, well, that's it, it's over. Dying a virgin, Crush still doesn't know I exist, and my last meal was an expired cup noodles. What a useless, boring life. But apparently, dying wasn't enough. Because I literally saw my own soul floating around like some useless, weightless feather. Am I not dead? That was my first thought when I jerked awake in a massive, Gothic-style bed. The second thing I noticed, I wasn't alone. There were terrified servants surrounding me, all dressed in medieval-style outfits, looking at me as if I was a bloodthirsty criminal. And they weren't calling me Yun. No, they were calling me Duke Venus. Huh, what kind of name is that? I had exactly 0 seconds to process whatever bullshit was happening before the giant, elegant golden doors slammed open. Boom, everyone stiffened. The air in the room turned ice cold. And then, he entered, tall, impossibly gorgeous, clad in eye-catching royal clothes, expensive gold and diamond jewelry, shiny yellow hair, and sharp red eyes that could probably kill a man with a look. Wait a damn second, I am not seeing wrong, am I? I rubbed my eyes aggressively as the man stepped forward and stopped right in front of my bed. My breath hitched, because it was him, Kong Minjun. But why did he look colder? Scarier. My darling Minjun, is it really you? I wanted to say that. Instead, a scream ripped out of my throat. Ah, because Minjun was holding a massive, gleaming sword, and it was pointed straight at me. Oh, my God. He stared at me coldly, sword practically kissing my face, and then smirked. Oh, wow, I might be dying again, but he looks amazing doing it. Wait, focus, Yun, you're about to get stabbed. His voice was calm, too calm. You seem surprised to see me, Duke Venus, he said smoothly. Did you really think I wouldn't find you? Excuse me, what did I do? Why is he looking at me like he's about to execute me? Still in shock and terror, my survival instincts kicked in. I shot up, waving my hands. Wait, what the hell is going on? Minjun's red eyes flickered. Even the guards and servants around us looked shocked. The silence was deafening. I gulped. What happened? Is this a silent prayer before you kill me? Minjun's eyebrow twitched. The guards, instead of answering, also pulled out their swords and pointed them at me. Huh, what the hell? I'm literally not going anywhere, I choked out. How am I supposed to run in this state? No one answered. Minjun just narrowed his eyes. I panicked. Okay, don't kill me. I surrender or, whatever it is. I shot my arms up dramatically. Silence. The entire room froze. Even the guards looked confused now. Minjun was visibly taken aback. His grip on the sword loosened. What? He muttered, clearly thrown off. Oh, I have shocked him. Great. Time to use that to my advantage. I nodded frantically. Yes, that's right. Let's all calm down. I am totally not going to run. Killing me would be a waste, you know. I'm, too pretty to die. Minjun's expression was unreadable. The guards, they looked at me like I had just grown 3 heads. I didn't, did I? I kept talking, out of pure desperation. So, haha, maybe put the sword down. I grinned weakly. That would be great. For everyone's safety, mainly mine. Minjun stared at me. His grip tightened again. Then, he stepped even closer. I instinctively leaned back into the bed, gripping the quilt like a lifeline. Minjun tilted his head. His eyes ran over me, like he was seeing something completely new. Then, very, very softly, "You're not acting like yourself," he murmured. I froze. Oh, shit. So after using my brain for what felt like hours, I finally pieced together what was happening. Transmigration. I thought that only happened in stories, right? But here I was, in the flesh, living proof that it was real. The question now was, where the hell was I? Well, turns out, I had been transported to some kind of ancient time, with castles, mansions, royals, and a whole army of terrifying guards. And my darling, my hopeless crush, Kong Minjun, who never even knew I existed, well, he was now Prince Lucille Na, ruler of some powerful kingdom. The same face, the same everything. But holy hell, this version of him was colder, scarier, and, of course, even more powerful. Honestly, he was even more handsome than before. How could that even be possible? And then, there was me. I was now Duke Venus. What? How could this be? The most dangerous and terrifying duke in the kingdom, no less. I had no clue what was going on, why I was in this body, or how to handle it. And honestly, I had no idea how to feel about the fact that now my crush, who still didn't know I existed, was now a prince and, potentially, my enemy. Looking at myself in the mirror, seeing my new body clad in black armor, the traditional, ancient duke clothing, I couldn't help but pause and admire my reflection. Damn, I was good looking, not to sound conceited, but this body had my exact face. Of course, this version was a lot taller, more muscular, and more powerful than I had ever been. There was even a small cut on my cheek, which only made me look even more rugged. And to be honest, I looked so intimidating in that armor. But now, here I was, standing in front of the man I'd been crushing on for years, who was now sitting on a throne, looking every bit the intimidating, perfect ruler. My crush, now the prince, Lucille. My guard says they had to knock you unconscious for a while. Were you really that out of it? Prince Lucille spoke, his voice as cold as ice. His piercing red eyes never left me, scanning me carefully. I gulped, tugging nervously at the collar of my clothes. Maybe, that's right, I said, trying to keep my composure. I can't seem to remember anything. So, you can't kill me, right? After all, killing an innocent person, isn't that against the law? I tried to sound calm, but inside, my heart was pounding like crazy. Lucille's gaze narrowed as he stared at me, his cold expression unchanging. I threw my hands up in mock surrender, playing the part of the charming duke. I hope you understand my situation, Your Highness. I'm just a poor, innocent soul, and I still have so many years left in me. Surely, you wouldn't want to kill me, especially when I've been crushing on you since forever. Lucille raised an eyebrow at me, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Crushing, what is that? I blinked, almost laughing at the absurdity of it all. You don't know what a crush is. I chuckled. It's when you're obsessively in love with someone from afar. The cute, wholesome feeling. I've been feeling it for over 10 years, all for you. I couldn't help but giggle at the ridiculousness of it all, though I quickly wiped the smile off my face, trying to maintain some dignity. Wait, you're not going to kill me, right? I asked, suddenly feeling the tension in the air. Please, don't do it, or you'll regret it later. Before I could finish my sentence, a guard beside me pulled a sword out and pointed it directly at my neck. How dare you speak like this before our lord? The guard growled. Quit acting like this, kneel and apologize at once. Am I acting? I asked, incredulously, pointing at myself. I thought I was just being honest. Lucille didn't react, his expression as cold as ever. But as I looked around, I noticed that everyone in the room was completely silent, shocked by what I was saying. Before I could process what was going on, another group of guards entered, bringing with them some kind of criminal or thief maybe. Suddenly, Lucille stood up. His movement was smooth, effortless. His eyes, as emotionless as ever, locked onto the criminal as he grabbed a long, gleaming sword. In one swift motion, he sliced the sword across the man's neck, killing him instantly. It was as if he was slicing through vegetables, the way he moved with such casual precision. Lucille wiped his blade clean with a towel, his gaze now fixed on me. Do you want to be next? He asked, his voice icy. I stared at him, wide-eyed, my heart racing. His words, his actions, they were all so terrifying. I could barely comprehend what was happening. I opened my mouth to speak, but all that came out was a hiccup. Before I knew it, my vision blurred, and I fainted. My body collapsed forward, and I found myself falling right into Lucille's arms. Of course, I would faint at that moment. Of course, I would fall right into his arms, the man I had been crushing on for so long. It seemed like life, if you could even call this life, had a cruel sense of humor. But honestly, I didn't care. For once, I was in the arms of the man I had dreamed about for years, even if it was in the most ridiculous and terrifying way possible. I thought I was dead again. Seriously, with all that blood and the sword swinging around, I was certain that I'd be meeting my maker. But no, apparently, I wasn't dead. I jolted awake, my heart hammering in my chest, already terrified out of my mind. And then my terror escalated to a whole new level when I realized who was sitting in front of me. There, on a ridiculously majestic throne-like chair, sat Prince Lucille. "Ah, you're so handsome," I blurted out before I could even stop myself. It wasn't until I saw the frown on his face that I realized, oh no, I definitely just ruined whatever chance I had of making a good impression. I'm glad I'm alive. Thanks for not killing me. I smiled awkwardly, desperately hoping that he'd ignore my ridiculous comment. Lucille, ever the picture of elegance and power, crossed his legs and leaned back in the chair like some kind of majestic king, his fingers drumming on the armrest in a way that just screamed, "I'm in charge here." "Tell me, who are you?" he asked, his voice smooth but laced with suspicion. I blinked at him, momentarily confused. What do you mean? "I'm me as I." I stumbled over my words, suddenly unsure if he knew who I was. Did he recognize me? Did he remember that I was not the Duke Venus? But Li Yun. Lucille's expression turned colder, darker. "You think I'm a fool?" he asked, voice dripping with disdain. "You're not Duke Venus, are you? He's never acted like this. Why are you suddenly like this?" Oh, shit, my brain, still trying to catch up, screamed think. I needed an excuse, and fast. "Well, you see, as you said, the guards knocked me out, and, that actually kind of triggered my amnesia," I said, gesturing vaguely at my head like I was some kind of medical genius. Lucille raised an eyebrow, clearly confused. "Amnesia, yes," I said, now fully invested in my made-up medical condition. "I mean, I've forgotten things. My brain's just not working properly. Trust me, I'm not lying. It's like some medical illness. You can ask your royal treater's nurse. Whatever you ancient people call doctors nowadays." I shot him a grin, hoping that my attempt at humor would work, but based on the look on Lucille's face, I'm pretty sure I just made it worse. Lucille stared at me for a moment, his face completely unreadable. And then, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke. "You really expect me to believe that?" I blinked, trying to act as innocent as possible. "I mean, it's not like I'm lying," I said, trying to maintain my poker face. "Why would I lie about something like this? Look at me." I waved my hands at my own face dramatically. "Do I look like the kind of person who would lie about amnesia? I'm too cute for that." Lucille's expression didn't change. I guess my charm wasn't working. "Sure," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm, "you're so cute, Duke Venus." A totally believable amnesia case. I winced, realizing my attempt to lighten the mood had utterly failed. "Well, at least I tried." Okay, fine," I said, holding up my hands in surrender. "Maybe I'm not a doctor, but trust me, I have really bad memory right now. Like, the worst." Lucille was silent for a long moment, then finally let out a long sigh. "Whatever. For now, you'll stay here. But if you start acting even weirder, I'll make sure you regret it." "Understood, Your Highness," I said, giving him a ridiculous salute, which only earned me another frown from him. But hey, at least I was alive, right? Even if my whole existence was now based on the world's worst excuse for amnesia. I honestly don't know what happened, but somehow, I'm living at the royal mansion like a guest. It's been a week now, and, well, nothing really eventful has happened. At least no one's attacked me, which is a nice change from the whole, "I'm probably gonna die today" vibe I had when I first got here. The weirdest part, people actually believed my amnesia story and have been treating me like a patient. It's kind of ridiculous, but at this point, I'm just grateful to be alive. So, I grabbed an apple, because, well, why not? I'm trying to embrace this life of luxury, and maybe because I'm secretly a sucker for fruit. I wandered out onto the balcony, and honestly, this place is like something out of a fairy tale. The view is gorgeous. The gardens look like they were plucked straight from the heavens. Everything is so royal and extravagant. I couldn't help but enjoy it, even if my situation was far from normal. And, okay, I'll admit it, what was really making this experience enjoyable? Watching my crush. Yep, there he was, Prince Lucille, sitting in the royal garden, talking to a few royal guards. His posture, majestic and cold, like the very image of royalty. I leaned against the balcony railing, biting into my apple, shamelessly staring down at him. Like, I'm totally not obvious about this, right? I swear, I could have stared at him for hours, but then, boom. Lucille suddenly turned his head in my direction, and I froze. Oh shit, panic surged through me faster than my brain could process. Without thinking, I instantly dropped to the floor, crouching behind the balcony rails, hoping, praying that he hadn't noticed me. Except, my stupid apple decided to make its dramatic exit. It rolled right off the balcony and fell to the ground with a loud thud. Of course it had to fall. Of course. I peeked over the railing like a cat who'd been caught in the act, but Lucille's expression was as cold and unreadable as ever. Please don't notice. Please don't notice. Please don't notice. But of course, that didn't stop me from imagining that he could totally see me. I mean, maybe I did look like a hallucination, like some random person who wasn't even supposed to be here. I squeezed my eyes shut. I'm not here. I'm just a figment of your imagination. Please don't see me, please. I ran away from the balcony, my heart racing with embarrassment. I swear I won't be so obvious next time, I promised myself, already cringing at the thought of Lucille noticing me staring at him like some lovesick fool. I made my way to the kitchen, hoping to calm my nerves with some food. I mean, food's always been my happy place, right? The kitchen was bustling, the maids and chefs moving around, preparing all kinds of dishes. Honestly, the place was filled with so many delicious fruits and dishes, I couldn't help but feel a little spoiled by the selection. But despite all that, something was missing. Something simple, something I craved. Noodles, specifically, ramen. I thought about it for a moment. They had all these fancy foods, but no ramen. Unacceptable. I decided, right then and there, that I was going to make my own ramen. Sneaking past the maids and chefs, who gave me confused glances, I gathered everything I needed: dough, water, spices, and whatever random ingredients I could find. At first, it didn't taste exactly like the ramen I was used to, but it was still good. Actually, no, it was amazing. When did I get so good at this? My makeshift ramen was turning out better than I expected. The chefs and maids watched me in awe. This was apparently the first time they'd seen someone create something like this. I even offered them some, but they hesitated. Apparently, they thought I might have made a new type of poison. Poison, really? Look at this glorious ramen. How could it possibly be poisonous? But whatever, I wasn't about to argue with them. I grabbed 2 random sticks I found lying around. God knows what their actual purpose was, but I was totally going to use them as chopsticks. Because I'm resourceful like that, I happily dug into my ramen, slurping it with abandon. This is the life. Everything was perfect. I was a genius in the kitchen, my noodles were delicious, and my stomach was finally satisfied. Everything was going my way, until the door opened, and in walked him. Lucille. The room fell silent, and everyone immediately bowed in respect to him. Me, I was too busy being caught mid-slurp, noodles sticking to my mouth like a bad scene from a comedy. Oh no, oh no, oh no. He casually looked over at me, and I froze. He sure is finding me ridiculous, right? Great, how am I ever supposed to impress him if he keeps finding me embarrassing situations like this? I must say, your sudden appetite is quite the contrast to the way you were beholding my face moments ago, at the balcony, Lucille said with that cold, princely tone of his. My eyes widened. He saw me staring. Of course, he did. I didn't stare, I stammered, panicking. I was just admiring. Admiring what? His voice was so icy, I thought I might freeze on the spot. You, I blurted out before I could stop myself. He raised an eyebrow. Huh, and nothing, I muttered, swallowing the rest of the noodles in one go. Why was my mouth always getting me in trouble? Lucille just stared at me, his gaze lingering on the noodles in my bowl. What are you eating? The food of the gods, I replied with a grin, like I was some culinary genius. Wanna try? Lucille glanced at me, then at the guards around him. They were practically shaking their heads, warning him that it could be poison or some weird concoction. Seriously, you're all doubting ramen. Don't worry, it isn't harmful, I said, trying to reassure him. If I can eat it, it's definitely safe. Trust me, I'm sure you'll like it. I gave him my brightest, most innocent smile, but there was a brief moment when I thought I saw a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Nah, I must have imagined that. He's probably just plotting my death in his head. But to my surprise, Lucille actually hesitated for a second before taking a bite. His eyes widened slightly, and I couldn't help but watch him intently. This is not bad, he said, sounding almost impressed. Of course it is, I said, giggling and resting my cheek on my palm, staring at him like he was some kind of art masterpiece. He noticed. Why do I always find you staring at me? He asked, his voice almost too cool for comfort. Because you're just too beautiful, I blurted out without thinking. As soon as the words left my mouth, I choked, realizing what I had said. Nope, I did not mean that. I mean, you remind me of someone I love a lot, I quickly added, trying to save face. But it was too late. I could already see his eyes narrowing, his mood shifting from neutral to something darker. Lucille's expression hardened, the coolness returned to his gaze, and I could feel the temperature in the room drop. He stood up suddenly, glaring at me like I had just committed the highest crime. Without a word, he turned and walked away, leaving me sitting there, confused and slightly mortified. What just happened? One moment he was okay, and the next, he was ready to burn me at the stake. I guess I should have expected it. Nothing about this situation with Lucille ever made sense. The entire place seemed to become obsessed with my noodles. Soldiers, workers, even the royal staff started asking for the Duke's Miracle Noodles. It became a phenomenon. The chefs begged for the recipe, and everyone, from high-ranking officials to common folk, was raving about it. I had unintentionally turned into some sort of culinary genius, and I didn't even know how it happened. They were all shocked by my makeshift ingredients, and somehow the taste was surprisingly better than expected. Maybe I was more talented than I thought. Lucille. Well, after I made him another batch of my masterpiece, I didn't expect him to speak much, but I did want to apologize in some weird way. I just felt like I owed it to him. To my surprise, he actually ate it without any complaints. And that's when it started, the I want more phase. He didn't say it directly, but I could tell. And the best part, he only ate it with me. It became a little routine. Every day, without fail, Lucille would ask for my noodles in his usual cool, collected manner, though I noticed the tiny, almost imperceptible glimmer in his eyes every time he ate them. He even had his staff create more chopsticks, and I could have sworn he was trying to be subtle about it. Cute, right? I also inadvertently introduced a medieval ramen addiction to the royal palace. Should I be concerned? Maybe. But I was too busy enjoying the chaos around me to care. Then came the incident during an intense royal meeting. While everyone was discussing taxes, I zoned out and casually aimed finger guns at one of the nobility, who was droning on and on. Bang. You're boring, I muttered under my breath. To my horror, the entire room fell silent, and a whisper spread quickly, the Duke just cast a silent death spell. Wait, what? I was just messing around. But before I could explain myself, Lucille leaned in, eyes glittering with amusement. Interesting. So, you know how to cast spells too. What the heck? Now, everyone thought I had cursed the poor guy. They were terrified. How did I get roped into this? I had no idea how to undo this mess, but I wasn't worried, until the next time I had to explain myself. Days went by in a relatively normal fashion, but there was an underlying tension in the palace. I noticed it when the king and queen arrived, and I could see how they scolded Lucille. The thought of my darling being upset made my blood boil. No one dared to talk to him or even get near him. After the royal lecture, I snuck into Lucille's room. I poked my head through the door, calling out, "Hi." Lucille, sitting near the balcony and gazing at the sky, glanced at me with narrowed eyes. "What are you doing here?" I hesitated for a moment, then smiled and said, to keep you company." "Can I come in?" He didn't answer, just continued staring out at the sky, so I took that as an invitation. Slowly, I walked over and stood beside him. Without any warning, I broke into song. Life is short, so don't feel blue. Put on a hat, and dance in a shoe. The sun will shine, the sky's so wide. So laugh out loud, and enjoy the ride. Don't sweat the small stuff, just let it slide. Life's a roller coaster, so take the glide. Lucille's head slowly turned to face me. His expression was something I couldn't quite place. His face said it all. What the hell? I awkwardly smiled, hoping to vanish into thin air. The silence stretched on. Finally, Lucille spoke, but not how I expected. "Have you sung that incredible song of yours to the person you love?" And, what's a roller coaster? I blinked. Did he just remember what I said about loving someone? And was he actually asking about my song? My heart skipped a beat. Was it possible he remembered me talking about that person I loved? Could I tell him that he was the one I was talking about? No, that would be far too forward. I couldn't say that to his face. Before I could even respond, Lucille stood up and took a step closer to me, and I froze. He was right there, way too close. I instinctively stepped back, looking at him in confusion. "You have an awful voice," he said, instantly dashing any hope of me recovering my mood. "Oh, thank you," I said sarcastically, rolling my eyes. "And you have an awful attitude." I crossed my arms, pointing at him. "Instead of thanking me, you insult me." The audacity. I turned away, but then, out of nowhere, I heard a tiny snicker. A real one. I whipped around to look at him in shock. "Did he just laugh? Did you just laugh?" I asked, my eyes widening. "Did you laugh for the first time, but at me? How rude." He didn't respond immediately, and my heart pounded. Could this be real? Lucille was smiling, really smiling. I had never seen this side of him in last life. Minjun never smiled. No, wait, maybe he did. My mind felt foggy. I felt as if I did saw Minjun smiling at me. But how? No way. He never noticed me before. This must be my hallucination. He never smiled at me, and now is Lucille. He can't also like genuine smiling at me, right? It must be the smile of, "You're about to die by NY hands." But before I could spiral into more confusion, a sharp arrow suddenly flew from the balcony, aimed directly at me. I barely had time to react. But Lucille, my savior, my darling, caught it with one hand without even breaking a sweat. He was so damn cool. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and serious. I blinked, still stunned. "You caught that with one hand?" "Of course," he replied, his gaze still intense. "I won't let anything happen to you." My heart raced. Did he just care? Nah, he sure thinks, if he dies, he must die by my hands only. After that day's incident with the arrow, the palace suddenly became a fortress, filled with more security guards than I had ever seen. All because of me, huh? And yet, despite the chaos, I felt like I had gotten even closer to Lucille. We ate together almost every day, always sharing noodles in the royal garden, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing in the same space. And the most ridiculous part, he actually started asking me to sing that dumb song I made. The first time he did, I was speechless. The second time, I was annoyed. The third time, I accepted my fate. But being the genius I am, I had a better idea. I would make him a music box so he could listen to it whenever he wanted and stop bothering me. I vaguely remembered how to make one, so I decided to gather some materials. Without thinking much, I left the palace and headed to the market. Big mistake, because guess what? I got kidnapped. Yep, just like that. Turns out, Duke Venus, or rather, the body I now inhabit, has a whole list of enemies. I may have changed, but apparently, they didn't get the memo. So now I was tied to a chair, chewing on the ropes around my wrists while a group of rebels glared at me. They looked ready to fight, expecting resistance. Too bad for them, I was about as threatening as a lost puppy. One of them, who looked like the leader, stepped forward. "You think you can fool us, tyrant? We know what you've done," he sneered. "Buddy, I can't even tie my own shoelaces, let alone, tyrant, things." "I think there's been a misunderstanding." I sighed. The rebel leader scoffed. "Silence. We're demanding a ransom. Seeing how Prince saved you from the arrow that day, guess you're close to the prince now. I'm sure he'll pay handsomely to get you back." "Oh, so they really thought Lucille would come to save me? Well, that's cute. Hate to break it to you, but I spent half my treasury last week building a public playground." "You might have to wait a while," I said casually. Then a thought hit me. Wait, so that arrow the other day, that was you guys? The rebel leader hesitated, looking a little thrown off. What? Before he could process my words, the doors suddenly slammed open with a loud, thunderous crack. And there he was, my darling, Lucille, standing tall. His presence alone filled the room with an undeniable pressure. Behind him, palace guards flooded in, weapons drawn. The rebels instantly paled. "My darling, I mean, your highness. You're here," I exclaimed dramatically, completely forgetting my cover. The entire room froze. The rebels, who had once been so full of bravado, suddenly surrendered without a fight. It was clear, the prince was far scarier than I ever was. Lucille walked toward me, expression unreadable. The moment my ropes were untied, I acted purely on instinct. Without thinking, I threw myself at him, wrapping my arms around him in the tightest hug I could manage. And that's when the room fell into dead silence. The guards stiffened. The rebels looked horrified. Even I realized, oh crap, what did I just do? I was about to pull away, but then, Lucille's arms wrapped around my waist. Firm, secure, holding me there. I stopped breathing. My brain short-circuited. And then, did you just call me, darling? His voice was low, almost teasing. Oh no. He heard me. Sweating, I tried to step back, but his grip didn't loosen. If anything, it tightened. Let's focus on the situation at hand, yeah, I said, trying to act cool while my mind was in complete disarray. But Lucille didn't let me go. Instead, he smiled. A soft, almost amused smile, like he had just found something precious. And then, with a slow, chilling turn, he glared at the guards. Make sure they regret ever laying their hands on him, he ordered. The rebels, oh, they were doomed. On the way back, I still wanted to get the materials for the music box. When I told Lucille about it, he surprisingly agreed, and even tagged along with me. Not only that, but when I bought the stuff, he paid for it. Why? I had no idea if he was in a bad mood or if this was just his usual behavior, but he didn't let me talk too much with anyone. Not the shop lady, not the knights, not even the guards. I mean, sure, I might have flirted a little with one of the knights while fixing his armor. It was harmless, a joke, but for some reason, Lucille got mad. Really mad. Before I knew it, he grabbed my arm, yanked me away, and then, run 25 laps, he ordered the knight. Like, what? Why so cruel? That wasn't even the worst part. One time, I was just casually singing my dumb little song to a friendly palace worker. I mind you, I didn't started yet singing, I just said one line and Lucille appeared perfect timing, dragging me away while scolding the poor guy like he committed treason. Then he turned to me and warned me never to sing that song for any other human. Excuse me, and don't even get me started on the noodles. The moment I tried to make noodles for someone else, he stopped me. He never allows me to cook for anyone else with my hands and never lets me eat with anyone but him. I was starting to wonder if this was all part of his keep me away from everyone so it's easier to kill me plan. Wow. Anyway, after days of effort, I finally made a small wooden music box that could play sounds and record tunes. Thanks to my past life as an engineer and working on mechanical builds, my techniques came in handy. I recorded the song onto it. When I showed it to the people in the palace, they freaked out. They called it witchcraft, a possessed object. I sighed, choosing to ignore their overreactions, and instead went straight to Lucille to show him. He narrowed his eyes as soon as he heard the song play. What kind of magic is this? How is this thing singing the song you made? I paused, and then, with a completely straight face, I said, it's my soul, trapped in a box. So it knows the song. Lucille stared at me, blankly. Oh no, he thinks I'm ridiculous. I'm kidding, it's just mechanical, I swear. I panicked. Lucille let out a tiny chuckle. A chuckle. You truly are strange, he murmured. I froze. Wait, did he just laugh? I squinted. Gosh, I am so confused. I don't know if he's being friendly with me or preparing to burn me at the stake, or maybe, in love. Nah, never. Don't think too highly of yourself, I scolded myself. But before I could spiral further, Lucille suddenly leaned closer. I stopped breathing. His hand reached out, gently brushing a stray strand of hair away from my eyes. Wait, what's this? AK drama moment. His gaze held something unreadable, something softer than usual, something unfamiliar. And then, what are you doing to me? His voice was deep, lower than usual, no longer cold. I blinked. What am I doing to you? He stared into my eyes for a long moment, then, abruptly, he looked away. Tomorrow is a royal gathering. Tag along with me. I blinked again. Oh, sure, I guess. I'm too bored here anyway. I smiled. Lucille didn't say anything. He only looked at me. Softly. Am I seeing things? I thought it'd be a normal noble gathering. I only came because my darling was here and, of course, free food. But damn, this was even more boring than the palace. And the worst part, people were openly flirting with my darling. Unacceptable. I gripped my glass tightly as I watched a noblewoman get way too close to Lucille. He, of course, remained cold and emotionless as always, but that wasn't the point. Lady Eleanor smiled, sweetly. Prince Lucille, you're even more handsome in person. Lucille, as polite and expressionless as ever, replied, "Thank you, my lady." Then she did it. She placed a hand on his arm. "If you ever need companionship." Crash. My glass hit the floor. "Excuse me," I blurted out. Lucille flinched, and the lady turned to me. Awkward. I coughed. I think the drink was too salty." I pointed at the shattered glass, pretending I totally didn't just throw it out of pure rage. Feeling way too embarrassed, I knelt down to pick it up, only for Lucille to calmly kneel beside me. He grabbed my hand, gently wiping off the spilled drink before ordering a worker to clean the mess. I looked up at him. The lady looked at us. Then, as if suddenly getting the hint, she excused herself and left. Good. The rest of the gathering, Lucille talked to people like the emotionless robot he was, while I just stayed by his side, eating and observing. Did he let me go anywhere? No. Why? Because apparently, I'd either get kidnapped or start flirting with who knows what. He even said, "You flirt with anything that moves." Excuse me, how dare he? I do not flirt with anything that moves. HMPH. Though, now that I think about it, every time I looked at someone for more than 3 seconds, he threw a glare at me. I squinted. How does he even notice that? Does that mean he's keeping his eyes on me? Later that night, I stood on the balcony, sulking as I stared at the stars. Lucille appeared beside me. "Why are you still sulking?" I huffed. The gathering was boring, even more boring than history class. There were so many beautiful people, and you didn't let me flirt with anyone. The moment the words left my mouth, Lucille grabbed my chin and made me face him. "You can't do that," he said coldly. His deep eyes stared into mine, then down at my lips. "If you're so desperate to flirt, do it only with me." Before I could even process what he just said, he leaned in and pressed his lips against mine. Wait, what the fuck? My eyes widened. Did he just? My eyeballs were about to pop out of my skull as I stared at him. Meanwhile, Lucille, completely unbothered by my breakdown, simply licked his lips, like he was tasting something unexpectedly good. And then, he dove in again. This time, it wasn't fleeting. It was rougher, more intense, his lips moving against mine like he owned them. "Hey, what?" I couldn't even finish my sentence. His grip on my chin was firm, his other hand sliding around my waist, pulling me closer, deeper into the kiss. I was too shocked to react. This wasn't supposed to happen. First, he was supposed to kill me. Then, he was my crush. And now, mental breakdown. "Kiss back," he suddenly murmured between kisses. Before I could even process that command, he pressed me against the balcony railing, lips crashing against mine once more. I blinked. Then, after a moment of hesitation, I thought, screw it, maybe I should just enjoy the moment. So I kissed him back. My heart pounded, wild, fast, loud. My face and neck burned. But the craziest part, it wasn't just my heartbeat I could hear. In the silent, cold night, there was another. Lucille's heart was beating too. And besides the sound of our racing hearts, the only thing left was the sound of our kisses. Wow. Breaking news. Prince Lucille has fallen in love with his own enemy, Duke Venus, I declared dramatically, lying flat on my back, staring at the sky after that intense kiss. Lucille lay beside me, facing me. His head rested on his palm, and his other hand. His fingers were softly tracing my face. First, they traced the cut mark, then moved to outline my lips, never stopping, never once faltering as I spoke. I looked at him, slightly irritated. "Are you listening?" But instead of answering, he squeezed my lips between his, pressing his kiss against them once again. Great. Why did I feel like he suddenly developed an obsession with my lips? First my noodles, now my lips. Wonderful. My heart raced like crazy, my face flushing red. I avoided looking at him, glancing off to the side, but I could feel the smirk forming on his lips. "I don't care if others need to know that I want my enemy to belong to me," Lucille said, his lips still pressing softly against mine. He leaned in and kissed my forehead, soft and gentle, leaving me utterly crazy. It was like he was enjoying this. "Since now you know who you belong to, I shouldn't see you flirting with anyone else," he said, his tone serious, deadly serious. I gulped, shyly nodding in agreement. His smile grew wider in satisfaction, and he pulled me closer into his arms. I could feel his heartbeat, steady and strong, thudding against me. Wow, when did this all turn into this? How and why was this happening? And, do I dislike it? Hell no, why would I? I was the happiest I'd ever been. I shouldn't waste time thinking about nonsense. I should live in the moment because being with Minjun, aka Lucille, had always been my dream. And now, it was real. It was happening. How could I let this chance slip away? I thought many things wouldn't change. I thought he'd stay cold, distant. I thought we'd stay the same. But, hell, was I wrong. I never expected the coldest prince to be so clingy. Yes, he still keeps his distance with words, hardly says anything aloud, but his actions, they speak volumes. He's so clingy. He can't stay away from me for even a minute. At first, I thought it was just a fluke. Maybe 1 or 2 times he'd linger, but no. Every single day, every time I turn around, there he is. His hand on my waist, his eyes following me like he can't bear to be apart. It's strange. For someone so reserved, so icy, his need to have me close is almost overwhelming. But the thing is, it feels nice. Maybe too nice. I can't decide if I want to push him away or pull him closer, but one thing's for sure, nothing's the same. Not when his every move tells me he's not going to let me go. I am a bit bored, I pouted, staring at the ceiling. Lucille glanced at me, his expression calm as ever. What do you want? Before I could even think of an answer, with a single wave of his hand, all the nobles with talents, whether it was performing, telling jokes, or anything entertaining, came forward to showcase their skills. It felt like a reality TV show, but with real people. It was surprisingly fun. People here are sure funny. I laughed as the performance ended and the nobles began to leave. The space grew quieter until it was just the 2 of us left. Lucille didn't say much. Instead, he suddenly grabbed my face, pulling me into a kiss. Of course he did. He had to. He always has to peck me at least twice a minute, and when we're alone, it escalates to the roughest kisses, making my lips numb. I felt breathless, so I gently patted his chest, hoping he'd break the kiss. Instead, he started kissing my cheeks and neck, making me bite my lip, trying to hold back from letting out a soft moan. Wait, I'm hungry, I said, pushing him gently away. He stared at me for a moment, then asked, what do you want to eat? And with the blink of an eye, the dining table was filled with an overwhelming amount of food, as if conjured out of thin air. Do you really expect me to eat all of this? I asked, my mouth already full with another chicken leg. I had already finished a pie, a big cake, and now I was munching on another piece of chicken. Lucille stared at me, his eyes softening. He calmly wiped my lips with a napkin. Keep eating, he said, pulling my chair closer to his. I didn't argue, just kept eating, focusing on the food. But then later one day I caught a glimpse of something strange. Lucille was listening to the dumb song I had made on the music box. He treasured it so much. He said it helped him sleep better, which made me feel kind of warm inside. I honestly suggested that I could sleep next to him and keep him company. It was out of concern, of course, but this man, Lucille, took it the wrong way. Now, here we were, in his dark room, the soft moonlight casting a gentle glow. Lucille hovered over me, kissing me without a break. I thought you wanted to sleep, I managed to speak between kisses. I will, he replied, his voice deep and rough, as he caught my lips again, pulling me into another fierce kiss. Would you believe me if I said I came from another world? I asked between the kiss, surprising him. Huh, he mumbled, pulling away slightly to look at me, confused. I took a deep breath before continuing. Yes, when I said I have amnesia, if I told you that this is not me, not the actual soul in this body, I'm just someone else's soul here, would you believe it? Lucille paused, his expression unreadable as he stared at me. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. I could feel his gaze lingering, as if trying to decide whether I was joking or serious. Finally, he spoke. I don't care, as long as it's you, he said, leaning in again to kiss me. Before I could fully process his words, he pulled away once more, a serious glint in his eyes. What's your name then? I smiled softly, my heart beating a little faster at his question. Li Yun. Just when I thought life was getting too good for comfort, our love story was out. The king and queen found out, and of course, it was ancient times. A guy times guy relationship was forbidden, especially for a prince who would be king. He needed a queen to lead the kingdom, to continue the royal bloodline. Great. I was instantly caught by the king and dragged to a place where typical ancient assassinations and executions took place, guards, kingdom people all around. Did he really have to kill me in front of all these people? My lord, if you want to kill me, can't we do it in private? I asked, totally nonchalant. I honestly thought that maybe, just maybe, dying again would bring me back to my original world. But then the thought of Lucille worried me. And as I expected, he arrived, running, not caring for his life, undeterred by the guards and the spectacle. Father, what do you think you're doing? Lucille spoke, instantly stepping in front of me, shielding me. The king glared at him. What do you think you're doing? As the soon-to-be king, do you think this suits you? You're in love with a man, with this worthless duke. The king's voice was cold, filled with anger. Ouch, my ego hurts, I whispered under my breath. I blinked as my wrist was tightly held by Lucille, his eyes now filled with a dangerous, cold intensity I'd never seen before. You have no right to speak like that to the man I love. I would appreciate it if you could calm down so we can talk. Enough. There's nothing to talk about. This is against the law of the kingdom. You shall be punished for this disobedience. The king stood up, eyeing one of the guards who nodded and immediately advanced to attack me with a sword. I closed my eyes, ready for the pain, but before I could feel anything, I blinked my eyes open to see Lucille, his bare hands catching the sword midair. Lucille, what the hell? I exclaimed, my heart in my throat as I saw the blood dripping from his wrist. Lucille, still calm, stared directly into the king's eyes. I've always obediently followed every order your father gave. This is the first and foremost thing I want for myself. It's him, and only him. His voice was steady, but there was a fire in it that I had never heard before. I am still politely requesting, Father, that we sit down and talk. Mother, please, it's my first time asking for something. Lucille's words struck everyone in the room. The king and queen were both silent, the king's anger simmering as he looked away. Lucille's gaze remained unwavering. Even the guards were shocked. It was the first time they saw the prince like this, showing such raw emotion for someone. Tears pricked at my eyes as I stared at him, holding the knife he had caught in his hand. He was bleeding, but his face remained stoic. His eyes were fixed on the king, unyielding, and yet there was something almost heartbreaking in them. The guards stepped back, and Lucille's hand was finally free. I instantly reached out to take it, holding it gently, feeling the warmth of his skin despite the blood that was dripping. His pain was unbearable for me. It was like I could feel it in my chest, as if his suffering was mine to bear. My heart ached as I looked at him, unable to stop the tears that threatened to spill. Lucille, I think you should listen to him. We shouldn't be together. I'll leave. What did you say? Lucille's voice cut through my words like a knife, his eyes flashing with fury. His gaze was intense, glaring at me as if I had just said the most forbidden, sinful thing in the world. Our eyes locked, mine filled with worry, pain, and regret, his eyes burning with a dangerous red as though I had just broken him. He didn't want to hear it, didn't want me to say those words ever again. You shameless prick, how dare you say such words, and not let him go standing before me. The king spoke, his voice filled with rage. I noticed him signaling a guard, who was already preparing to strike Lucille from behind. But before they could do anything, I grabbed Lucille, turning him around and hugging him, taking the blow myself. The sword pierced through me instead. I instantly coughed blood, and my body weakened. Lucille's eyes widened in terror as I collapsed in his arms. He was too scared, too broken to speak. His face was filled with panic, and I could see the tears forming in his eyes, though I could barely keep my own open. What do you think you're doing, you idiot? Don't you dare. Stop. Wait, you can't leave me. Venus, no, please don't leave me. Yun. His voice cracked, and his tears fell on my face. I managed a weak smile, my lips trembling. Did you just call me an idiot, and then my real name? I wanted to laugh, but the pain was too much. This idiot, even in this state, was holding me close and kissing me, tasting my blood, not caring about the consequences. I wanted to stop him, to tell him not to do this, but I was too powerless. My body was giving up, and before I could say anything else, I saw Lucille, in a burst of anger, grab a sword from one of the guards and throw it straight at the king. The room was chaotic, but Lucille didn't care. He came back, holding me tight in his arms before taking the very same sword that had killed me, using it to stab himself right through his chest. He didn't let go of me, not even as we both succumbed to the pain. We died there in each other's arms. Wow, how dramatic. I thought I was dead, only to wake up in my bedroom, tears filling my eyes. Shocked, I looked around. It was night time, around 12. My mind raced. I was back, in my original world. Without wasting a moment, I threw on a hoodie and pants, then ran to my office. I didn't care about the time or anything. I just kept running, my tears flying. I ran toward my workplace, only to find it locked. I ran toward the park near it instead, desperate to find something, anything. And then I saw him, Minjun. I stood frozen. He was there, cold, but there was something in his eyes as he stared back at me. My tears didn't stop as I whispered, "El Lucille." There was silence, before I heard him chuckling softly. Then, I saw it, his tears dripping down as he knelt down, hugging his knees. I clenched my fist and walked toward him, watching as his body trembled. "Does it hurt?" he suddenly asked, standing up and pointing to the spot where I had taken the sword. I laughed through my tears. "Of course it doesn't. That was that body. This is my new one. Don't you know that?" I said, smiling through the tears. He stared at me, and we locked eyes, both of us in tears. Before I knew it, he pulled me into the tightest hug. I hugged him back, but he pulled apart slightly, just to kiss my entire face before kissing my lips roughly. Our tears mixed in the kiss, but we didn't mind. We kept kissing as if it was our last day on Earth. "So, do you like me, Duke Venus, or just me?" I asked, as we both sat on the swings in the park, staring at the sky. "Both," he replied. I glanced at him. "Do you like me, as Yun, because you know I'm Duke Venus?" I asked, just needing to make sure. He looked at me with a blank expression. "What are you saying? I've always liked you, whether you were Duke Venus or Li Yun." I was speechless. "What? I thought you didn't even know I existed." I was confused and shocked. As I said, "You're an idiot." He looked at the sky. "I'm in love with you since middle school." I blinked. "Middle? What, weren't we classmates just in high school?" He stared at me blankly, his face clearly showing I was the dumb one here. "Wait, did we go to middle school together?" I had no idea, but he knew all this time and had liked me all along. I thought we were classmates from high school and since then I've been in love with him. "How didn't I know?" I asked. "Because you're dumb," he replied. Sure. Then, why didn't you ever say anything? Or why didn't you approach me?" I asked. "Ask that to yourself," he said simply, crossing his arms. I blinked, confused. Wait, now it all made sense. All the times he tried to talk to me, I thought he only wanted to talk about work or the person next to me. I was too busy crushing on him to avoid being near him. So when he was smiling at me, I thought that was just my imagination. What the hell? I had made myself a fool all this time. I'm sorry for being so dumb. I facepalmed. Good, now you know. Now sing the song, he ordered. "You still want that dumb song?" "Nope, I'm not singing it now. I'll sing and record it for you later, okay?" I said, smiling. "Before I do this," Lucille, aka Minjun, spoke. "I hope you know you can't ever leave me. You're mine forever, in any dimension or time." That's all he said with a cold, serious face, before holding the swing, pulling me closer, and kissing me as roughly as he could. Kissing, sucking my lips and tongue desperately and aggressively, I didn't complain, and I kissed back because I could feel the overwhelming love, longing and possessiveness in it. Wow, so our love story was sure, unique and beautiful.